So, hello everybody and welcome to this JobRunr deep dive. I hope you can all hear me well. Yes, all right, perfect. So let's get started. This is going to be a deep dive into JobRunr, and of course I'm a little bit biased, but I think it's the ultimate library for background job processing in Java, and I'm biased because I created it. But there are people and users that came back to me and they said, yeah, well, we saw a 20% developer productivity increase. And you all may be thinking now, 20%, only 20%. Now, these days we have ChatGPT. I have 50% developer productivity increase with ChatGPT. Well, what if you combine the two and it's the start of your 4-hour work week? Anyway, let's get started. Quickly, small agenda. I am going to introduce myself. I'm also interested in your story. I'll be telling a little bit about why I started JobRunr. And I think we have a really technical audience, so talk is cheap, you all want code. That's going to happen. Then I'll discuss some of the JobRunr internals. I'll also say where we are today and what will happen in the next tomorrow and the next period ahead. We'll have some time for Q&A, and of course I'll be eating my own dog food and doing live coding. So, who am I? I'm Ronald. You can find my contact details at the top right. What else is important? I am from Belgium. I think we have more types of beers than we do have inhabitants now these days, so I am definitely born in the right country because I'm a beer lover. And then I wanted to ask who you all did you enjoy DevOps Greece until now? Yes? Okay, awesome. And then, is there anybody who already knows JobRunr by any chance? Only 3 people, 4, 5, okay. That's not that good. I really need to fire my marketing manager because he did another mistake. He created 2 Twitter accounts, a personal one and one for JobRunr, and what you get is twice the work and half the amount of followers. So who does that? And by the way, I'm the marketing manager, so I should fire myself for that part. And then I learned that democracy was originated here from Athens. So I find democracy really important, and I want to do some kind of Roman voting. So would you want the live coding first, thumbs up, in the middle of the session? I think that's the best, but you guys can decide, or at the end of the session, then you do this one. So what is it going to be? Middle, 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 perfect. All right, great choice. All right, so let's get started, the history. So 3 to 4 years ago, I freelanced a lot as a Java consultant, of course, and I got a new assignment. And it was a greenfield project in fintech. And note the quotes around the greenfield project. And what it was in fact e-invoicing gateway or middleware to the PEPL network. So you might ask, what is PEPL? Well, PEPL stands for Pan-European Public Procurement Online. And like I said before, I'm from Belgium, we have Brussels, we have the European Commission, and that's why these guys make so much money. They can come up with difficult names for really simple things because it's nothing more than e-invoicing or an e-procurement standard for Europe. I'm sure they all must be Flow certified resources. And as of course this is related to banking, it's all XML. So we have this XML document, and within this XML document you can have the actual PDF invoice base64 encoded, and a lot of other stuff in there. So this is what PEPL document looks like. And it was a greenfield project, but like I said, it was quoted, they were already working for it on a year. It was a microservice architecture. And there were a lot of RESTful microservices on GCP, and they had an asynchronous API towards their end customer. So the first call saved the actual document and put then an event on PubSub for further processing. Internally, all other communication was synchronous using RESTful APIs, also when external APIs had to be called. And the goal was to process millions of documents per day. But yeah, it took off a little bit slower, and we only had in the beginning 100,000 documents per month. I think this now increased a lot already, but even then, yeah, a bit over-designed, I think. But microservices. Processing was not retried on failure, because internally we were using all HTTP calls. There was no monitoring, and there was no logging with, there was no correlation ID, so let alone causality wasn't also there. And invoices got lost. A lot of the invoices, in fact, they got on that letter queue, and I know a lot of Greek people are religious, and I myself am too a little bit religious, but if there's one thing I don't like, is to pray to the gods of code that the invoices of our customers arrive at the right time. So, yeah. This was the greenfield project that I imagined. This is how I felt after 2 to 3 weeks. And I really considered a career change. But yeah, that's not how I like to do things. So I started to look for other solutions. And they're either vendor-specific, like AWS and GCP have all solutions, but yeah, you have a really vendor lock-in in that case, which is okay, but that's not what the company always wants. They require often extra infrastructure. Apache Kafka, Apache Hadoop, Apache Spark, they're all the great tools. But I remember going to the DevOps guy, and he said, one does not simply install Hadoop FS. In fact, his face was even different. He looked at me and he said, Hadoop FS, what the hell is that? And there is no open source one-stop shop that I think is easy to use, and with that I mean developer-friendly, distributed by default, that uses existing infrastructure, that includes monitoring, and that has resilience built in. So I believe, and I really believe, that we're not all working for Facebook, LinkedIn, or Netflix, and that we all need to process petabytes of data per day. And I didn't include Twitter here because, yeah, of course, Musk has took over Twitter and fired everybody, so the chance of that anybody of Twitter is here is really small. Thank you. And I also think we often need to solve complex business processes with a moderate amount of data, and I think this can be gigabytes, maybe even terabytes. And I believe we don't need extra infrastructure just to run some background jobs or to do some distributed processing. Let's keep things simple and stupid and reuse proven technologies like SQL or NoSQL. Creating and running these jobs should be fast and easy. And if they fail, they should be retried by default, and they should not bug me unless they keep on failing. It should be resilient. I also believe we should have instant insights in how our jobs are doing. And I believe that such a tool should also be self-maintaining, so it should be plug and play, and it should clean itself up. And I miss one, in fact. I remember Ted gave the opening keynote, and he said, we're all artists. I also believe that your code is your art, and it should be treated with the respect it deserves. So it should run flawlessly. And these are the beliefs that I used when I create JobRunr, and to which I hold myself accountable to each day when I do something to JobRunr. So that's when I decided it's time to solve this, and I started working on it. And I think I succeeded in making it simple. You can just use any Java 8 lambda, and I know we're on 17, and I hope everybody can migrate easily, but not everybody has this opportunity yet. So it supports even Java 8 still. It's distributed and cluster-friendly by default. It leverages your existing infrastructure, which can be SQL or NoSQL. It's embeddable. You could just need to add one dependency. There's no cloud. It's just a jar that you add to your project. It's resilient. If a job fails, it will automatically retry. It has a dashboard by default embedded, so monitoring is included. And it integrates with the best. That means there is a Spring Boot starter, a Micronaut feature, and a Quarkus extension. So I should have changed Supergirl to perhaps JobRunr, but yeah, I'm not that good at Photoshop. And this is how you create a background job. You just pass it a Java 8 lambda. There's nothing more that you need to do with it. And this is the dashboard that you get out of the box. So that's that. And since we are all developers, and you said, even I say, talk is cheap, show me the code. You decided Roman voting style to do that live coding now. So let's try that. It's going to be a live demo, so don't shoot me if it's not that good as the demo from Josh Long, but let's give it a try. I'm going to use a vanilla Java project. So I'm going to call it JobRunr demo 3. It's already taken 4 by trial. Java, Maven, all the standard things that I want to use. Okay, and then we need to add some dependencies. The dependencies that I want to add are, of course, JobRunr. For logging, I just use logback. And it needs a library to do JSON transforming. It supports both Jackson, JSON from Google, and Eclipse JSON. So now let's refresh. Is it readable, by the way, for everybody? If not, shout, and I will make it bigger. And now let's quickly create some classes. So com.jobrunner. And it should be org. Let's do that again. .example.main. And as I'm not using any starter or a Quarkus extension, let's do it the old style. And how do you start it? Well, we start with JobRunner, and I want to configure it. The next thing is you need to define a storage provider, which can be SQL, NoSQL. For this example, I will use the new in-memory storage provider. Then, of course, I want to enable background shop processing. So I use the background shop server, and I need a dashboard. I initialize everything. And last but not least, I want to have the job scheduler available for scheduling jobs. That's that. Of course, we need our actual jobs. And in this case, I will just create a simple service. Service.myService. And let's create a method in it, public void my long running. It can also be short, but I'll make it longer later on. And I'm going to pass in some variables, string inputs in this case. It's going to be a really hard job. And I give it the inputs. That's that. So now let's schedule some actual jobs. I do job scheduler.enqueue, and there are two ways to do this now. The first way is by means of a generic, where I just say my service, And this means that the lambda that I am provided with has an input argument, in this case x, and x will be an instance of my service. So I can do x, my long-running method, and there's not a single demo in the Java world which doesn't have hello world, so let's reuse that one. That's one way to enqueue a job. The other way is we create a new my service, which of course can be injected by Spring Boot so that you have it available. And then again, you just do enqueue. We don't use any input, the x in this case. And we can use my service.myLongRunning job again. Let's do foo. Oops. Voila, let's run this. And I think I saw some red, and that is because I still have it running somewhere else. Port is taken. JobRunr for demo. Let's start again. All right. If I go to localhost 8000 now, I have the dashboard out of the box because I said use dashboard. And I see my jobs already succeeded. And it already says it will automatically go to deleted state in 1 day from now. But this is an easy example. Let's make it a little bit more difficult. I said it would be my long-running method, so let's make it a really long method. We add some sleep, about 15 seconds. And I want you to embrace exceptions. Just throw them. JobRunr will handle them for you and will automatically retry if necessary. It has a smart backoff policy, so it will retry up to 10 times with an exponential backoff policy. And if it then still fails, then it will go to the failed state indefinitely, where it asks you to have a look, of course. But typically, if you have some long-running jobs, you also want to log what is happening. So private static final logger. And everybody knows this, of course. But wouldn't it be cool if we could just see everything on the dashboard? I think so. So I wrap this with a JobRunr dashboard logger. Voila. Let's do some actual work. The hard work. Voila. Oh, that was not supposed to happen. And then we are actually working really hard because of ChatGPT, of course. We sleep again. Oops, this one should go up. And work is done. Going to bed. I think that should be it. So let's restart this now. And if we go again to our dashboard, the old jobs will be gone, of course, because we're using the in-memory database. But I now have my long-running method for foo. And if we just wait a little bit, because we're working really, really hard, of course, we will see the dashboard, there it is, live updating. And if we wait a little bit more, we will also see that the actual job will succeed. One has already succeeded, and now this one too. So that's the live updates in the dashboard. And I don't know whether everybody knows, but Quartz recently is not getting a lot of love, which I think is a pity. Why not do some of the features that Quartz also has? So we can schedule any job to run, for example, oops, what did I do? 8 hours from now. And again, we can pass a lambda. But sometimes, especially in the corporate worlds, things need to happen every day, every hour, I don't know what. And by the way, who likes cron expressions? 2 people? All right, you got 3 people? All right, you're really good. I find it really difficult. ChatGPT apparently also still, because I tried it for some difficult cron expressions. But anyway, you can pass in a string any cron expression, but you can also do cron daily at 8 o'clock and 15 minutes, for example. And again, we just give it a lambda. And if you're using Spring Boot Quarkus, this also can be done with just a simple annotation. All right, let's restart this. Up. What I see now is I see my recurring jobs, and JobRunner automatically generates an ID. This you can configure to later update it, delete it. It has a job name, and it's scheduled at 8:15. Of course, time zone is important, so by default it takes the time zone you're in, which means it will run 20 hours from now. But yeah, you know business, they want things to happen immediately. It's possible via the dashboard. So now the actual job is, it's already processing, and here it is. Of course, also our schedule job is available, and voila, that is the demo. The worst part is done. Thank you. So I now need to fast forward a little bit because we saw all of that. It's now time for some really deep internals. How does JobRunner work? Well, by default, when you create a job, JobRunner's job, that's too many jobs, is to run to the caller as soon as possible, as fast as possible, that it doesn't block any web operation, for example. And what it does, it just analyzes the lambda and saves it in the storage system, which can be, again, the SQL or NoSQL database. And then you can have 1 to n background job servers that start processing work. And this can, of course, be the same server. This can be different servers. That's how you decide how to configure it. And what they do is they monitor the storage system to see whether there is a new job. And if that's the case, they fetch it, do the work, update it, and they go on to the next one. So, who's ready for some bytecode? When you type backgroundjob.enqueue and then a systemout.println, what you will see is below is the actual bytecode generated by the Java compiler. And I thought it was difficult until I get a hang of it. It's not that difficult, in fact. What you see here is that you do a get static of the system out, and it returns a print stream. Then we put this string on the stack. And the most interesting method that we are interested in is, in fact, the invoke virtual. That's the lambda method that we want to call. What's also important, perhaps, to note is that any Java 8 lambda is, in fact, compiled to a synthetic method here, which you can see here. Then, if you would do the same thing, for example, with your service, it's all more of the same. Again, we get the test service, so the service that you want to call and where you want to have your actual method, your actual job, you want to have that one available. So that's the get field that we see here. Then we put, again, some string on the stack. We put a the I, which is this one here on the stack. We invoke a static method, which is instant on now, and then again the invoke virtual. So you all know bytecode by now, so you got an extra certificate now after the one from Flow yesterday. And then, isn't this dangerous? When I created JobRunr initially, I put it also on Reddit, and this was the feedback that I got. Your library may be nice at first glance, but it's so much black magic going on that should never be relied upon. And, well, perhaps he has a point, but in Java, we have 3 types of compatibility categories: source, binary, and behavior. And binary compatibility is the one that is specified in the Java language specification, which means that we can still run programs compiled with GDK 1.1 or 1.0 on the latest GDKs. So this stuff doesn't tend to change a lot. Not only that, I was contacted by Oracle, the quality outreach program, and they asked us to participate in the quality outreach. What that means is that ahead of the actual release of the actual GDK, they ask, hey, can you test it? And this is a win-win situation. I know when JobRunr breaks, and they know whether they did a change in the GVM or the GDK that also perhaps breaks something. So we participate in that. And on top of that, we have some automated tests, of course, that make sure that JobRunr is actually building and running on all the different GDKs that are available, going from 8 to Zulu to 14 to GraalVM. So I don't think it's too dangerous. And by the way, everybody is using already ASM. It's the library that's in Hibernate and all the other in Spring. But it kept on resonating with me that it might not feel safe for everybody. So in JobRunr 4, which is about 1.5 years old now, I added the option to work with a job request and a job request handler, which in fact means command-command handler pattern. So this is a job request to from subject. It's to send an email, and who think this is still bloated? There's a lot of code for not a lot of things. I know that all the kids from high school now these days, they don't want to do anything with Java anymore because it's so bloated, but well, I don't agree anymore. We now have records, we have Josh Long, we have GraalVM. They only want to do TypeScript, Golang, Rust. Well, let these other languages take a hike. I think Java is still cool. And then to send the actual email, you just implement the send email job request handler in this case. You implement an interface where you just need to, again, implement one method, sorry for that. It's the run method. And you get the actual job email request passed in. And this will be executed as a job. The thing to note here is perhaps the job annotation where I have name equals %0. Well, what this means is it will call the toString of the sent email job request. And this way, in the dashboard, you will have a really nice, readable job name, and you can easily find it. And to use it, well, I wanted to thank Pat for the blast that we're all having here, and the audience was really great. So this is how you the internal, the first internal. The next thing that is done, the job is translated to JSON. And this is how it now looks. You have the class name, the method name that needs to be invoked, and all the parameters. Why JSON? Because I think it's important to do things simple. It's readable, debuggable, and especially, it makes my life easy in the dashboard. The last, we're only 3 out of 6. The next thing that is done, it is saved inside the database or the SQL or NoSQL database. And what you also do is we take over the complete MDC context. So any correlation ID you have will automatically also be available during your job. Then you see the onCreating filter and onCreated filter. Well, that's just for adding extra hooks where you can have custom logic. And voila. And these are all the different databases that JobRunr supports out of the box, going from DocumentDB, Redis, Mongo, and most SQL databases, even Oracle. Next, things are read from the database. So we take into account the amount of CPU that you have in your server, calculate the best amount of threads to process actual work that we don't overload the server. And if there is CPU cycles available, these amount of jobs we're going to fetch from the database, and we start processing them. But how do we guarantee that we only process your job once? Well, we just use optimistic locking. If there is a concurrent job modification exception happening in this moment, it means that the processing already started on another server. Last but not least, we process the actual job. So here you see the method we called before. We check whether the processing can start. If it can process, we run it. And then we update the job state to succeed if that succeeds. If it fails, we update everything in the dashboard to make sure that you know it's failed. And how do we run the actual job? Well, it's nothing more than a little bit of reflection. And reflection got really fast, by the way, in the last GVM. And when all of that is done, we have the job available in the dashboard. If it succeeds, yay, time to go home. If it fails, you see an exception message, why it failed. So these are the actual internals of JobRunr. Then, where are we today? From what I know, JobRunr is used for medical image processing, web crawling, order fulfillment, document generation, e-procurement, service desk automation, and a lot more things. It has 160,000 downloads per month from Maven Central, and I never thought this would happen because this was a hobby project for me 3 years ago. And there is some anonymous usage data available. And I checked 3 days ago, we processed 10 billion jobs in less than a year. And the important thing to note is that 8.5 billion is by a customer that I know. And then, I don't know if you remember the first slide, but I have 3 kids to feed, and they are hungry. So that's why I created JobRunr Pro. And it has a better dashboard, it has Spring transaction integration, and a lot more features like queues, batches, job chaining. So there's that. And I find it important that we take care of our climate. So for 5% of the revenue, so that's not profit, that's revenue, once a year we plant trees with team trees. And what is ahead of us? Well, we already support GraalVM, both on Spring and Quarkus, but I think we can do better. I followed a great talk about profiling by Mario earlier on. I did some analysis. I think we can go faster. We will have support from multi-tenant jobs, and of course, I'm always open to feature requests from you. So, that's that. Then, almost time Q&A, but first, I know these seats are really, really comfortable. And I've read that in a study that about 20% during a session might doze off. It's normal. So if there's one thing that you need to take away, it's just this. For JobRunr, you only have one dependency. You can choose a Java 8 Lambda or a job request. It's distributed by default. It has a built-in dashboard. And it's resilient thanks to automatic retries. So that's the key takeaway. And then I would like to ask, remember to give feedback on this talk. If you like JobRunr, only if you like it. If you don't like it, just start a discussion or create an issue. Start the GitHub repo if you like. If you also really like it, convince your manager, perhaps, to get a pro license, because my kids are really hungry. And last but not least, there are Belgian chocolates, like I said earlier on. So please come, have one, and feel free to ask questions. Yes. Yes, that's true. So, wait, I'm gonna try to use this mic now. Test. Yeah, okay. Yes, it has, so it's really difficult for me, for open source to decide where do I put which feature. Okay. Some kind of what? Sorry? I'm still not following, sorry for that. Ah, yeah. So you can also just schedule jobs for certain moments. So you can just schedule it for 1 month from now, and then JobRunner will do it one. Yes. We everything in JobRunner to save jobs, to create jobs, you have either the job scheduler, the one that I used during the demo, and also there is a complete API for the storage. And that storage API, there you have full access to everything, including getting all the jobs and doing, I think, what you want. But I see what you mean. But no, that's not supported out of the box, but there is a feature request from another customer indeed to do the same thing. Yeah. Oh. That's all possible. So if you want to fail the job and do not continue processing, you just throw a special JobRunner exception in this case, and then it will stop processing. And with the hooks that I mentioned during the talk, you can you have each time a job changes from state, you can have your own custom logic built in. You're welcome. Thank you. Yes. Hi. Yeah, well, part of JobRunner, so the question was, perhaps I'll repeat it, how do you support other databases that are not supported? Well, there are people that already created the CouchDB support. And how do you do that? It's implementing one interface. And part of the open source version of JobRunner is also the test suite. So you can have the complete test suite run against your implementation of the storage provider, and if that passes, you're sure that, 99% sure that it will be supported and that you're good. Yes, definitely. PRs are welcome. There are only 30 people that are also contributed. For certain recurring jobs. That's all possible in the Pro version. Yeah. So in the Pro version, in the dashboard, you can say pause, resume, everything, and also the API is available also, of course. Yeah, again, sorry, it's as an open source developer, it's really difficult to decide where, what. So, any other questions? Yes? How about? Yes, yeah, again, yeah, nice question, really important question. Also supported in the Pro. So let's say that you need to schedule, and this is an actual use case, you need to send out 1 million of jobs. You want to do this atomically, because if halfway during the sending of the emails your database crashes, then you're stuck. And that's built in using a batch functionality in the Pro version. Yes? Good question. No, it's the scheduled executor pool, of course. And we also did some tests already with Project Loom in 2021, I think, to see how it would impact us. And the thing that we saw, which is rather strange, and we need to do our tests again, is that memory got a little bit consumed, but we still need to, well, we're also looking into that. Yeah. That's, yeah, so what's the best way to set up JobRunr? And it's mentioned in the FAQ, so the FAQ, so that's a good question. So the best way to do it is to have the dashboard, for example, only enabled on one of the background shop servers, and then add, I know of a company that has 24 background shop servers working and doing. And the nice thing is, of course, is Kubernetes. If it's calm, they scale down. If it's busy, they scale up. And one of the feature requests that's also coming up is that JobRunner will auto-configure the amount of pods for you, so that if there is a whole bunch of jobs coming in, that it will automatically scale up to the limit that you decide, and then afterwards scale down again. You can, how many servers? Or the max that I know that has been tested is 20. Yeah. 24, in fact. But this is not a standard Zookeeper. This is a different Zookeeper. You don't need to install any Zookeeper component, by the way. It's also really important to know, because from ops perspective, if you need to install a Zookeeper, I know that the ops team doesn't like it. There's no need to do that. All the Zookeeper is in JobRunner itself, and there is a master node, of course, and the master node is just the server that is already living the longest. And if it goes down, automatically the other servers see it and will try to take over. Yes? Yeah, that is, but it's again in the Pro version, sorry for that. So you can have 5 priorities. And another feature that we're working on is to have like multi-tenant application with fair usage. So if you, for example, are a mobile operator and, no, that's a bad example. If you're an e-commerce company and you have like 10 different people on your platform, and one of these people is creating millions of jobs, then what is happening now is that all the other companies will have to wait until these millions of jobs are processed. But we're now working that they're all, that they don't get that much advantage, that it takes one by one the jobs, and this will be multi-tenancy support, of course. All right. So feel free to get some Belgian chocolates. Don't let me take them back home, because I want my kids to eat healthy. Thank you.